Good evening and welcome to Greater Somerville. I'm Cayenne Anderson. Tonight's topic, Davis Square. My guests tonight are employees of Mayor Joe Curtitone's administration, devoted to the cause of making Somerville a great place to live, work, play, and raise a family. For the past several years, they have worked on and within the guiding framework of SummerVision Comprehensive 2030 Plan, finalized in 2012. They also managed the ongoing work on the Davis Square Neighborhood Plan and streetscape improvements. Tonight, we will discuss the history of these initiatives, the theories behind them, what we can expect for next steps, and how Davis Square will be changing in the years ahead. So please join me in welcoming for his return and her debut appearance here on Greater Somerville, George Proakis and Sarah Spicer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, here we are. I'm just laughing because, you know, it's kind of warm in the studio, but it's been so frigid outside. And I was looking at myself in the camera. I'm sorry, I had to do it because check my hair out. And I feel like I have like this wrap, like I almost broke my neck. I didn't break my neck, I'm just cold. So anyway, thank you for coming down. I know you both are extremely busy. We had talked about having callers tonight, and I'm just going to be straight up with the guests at home. We just have too much stuff to cover. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. But you know, if you have questions, you can submit them to me, or you guys, I mean, you're very accessible people. It's just tonight we only have 28 minutes, so we want to make sure we get rid of get through everything. So, you know, we do a lot here in Greater Somerville, try to cover the various squares. We've done Union Square, obviously. We try to get over to East Somerville every now and again. But Davis Square is one of those squares that, I don't want to say this, but it's almost like this, people just assume it's there. You know, it's been very successful, a lot of movement, a lot of things going on. And in reality, there's a lot of room, I don't want to say a lot of room for improvement, but there's some things that, that should be happening, or hopefully will be happening in the next few years. So it's pretty exciting. A couple of things we're just going to get into a little bit with each person, kind of how they arrived where they did, because we don't really have much time, but I always like to find this out with my guests. So George, you're native of Massachusetts.
Yes.
And your current role is Director of Planning at the City of Somerville.
That's right.
Okay. And you've been there since January 2010.
My 4-year anniversary this month.
Happy anniversary!
Thank you.
Very nice. So where were you previously?
Lowell. I spent about 7 years in the city of Lowell doing very similar work, short-term and long-term planning,
Okay.
managing planning board process, and doing long-range plan work
Okay.
and zoning work.
And so then what brought you to Somerville? Why
Well,
Somerville?
before I was in Lowell, I did a master's degree in planning, and my thesis work, my most interesting interest in work, and where I spent a lot of energy was on looking at the regulations, the process, and the design for changing places around transit stations, particularly future transit stations. And when the planning director job opened in Somerville with the future Green Line and all of the changes going on around here, it just seemed like such an exciting opportunity to join this administration and be a part of addressing where we're going in our future.
And everything aligned. Yeah.
Yes.
This is great. The Green Line just has to come now. Sarah, you are from New York. Although technically you've been here long enough, so I don't have to tease you. No, I'm just kidding. So you've been here 8 years. You live in Boston.
I've been in the Boston area for 8 years.
Okay, where do you live now?
I still live in Cambridge,
Oh,
in Central Square.
Cambridge.
Yes.
I give people a hard time
place.
when they live in
Yep.
Cambridge. That's okay. She works in Somerville. You spend most of you're always at City Hall, so that's good.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so what? So your role, you're senior transportation planner at the City of Somerville, and you've been there since 2011. So not quite an anniversary yet. So why Somerville? What brought you here, or what keeps you here? I should say.
Well, what brought me here was quite a similar story to George. It was always apparent, as long as I have lived in the area, that Somerville is a place where great things are happening. And during my master's work, I actually did a fair amount of work taking a look at what was happening in Somerville.
Really?
And so it was a fairly easy transition back in 2011 to come and really join in.
And now you're here, and now you're getting paid for it.
That's right. It's a dream come true, actually.
It's a dream come true. Look at that.
In all seriousness.
She's getting a raise. She's getting a raise, folks. Okay, so we are going to talk about 3 different topics, but it's a little confusing even for, I mean, I thought I had it all under control, and then like a couple of minutes before the show, I thought, okay, George, I want to make sure I get this right. So what we're going to do here is we've got slides, because we're technologically savvy here at Greater Somerville, and we're going to go through some various kind of background points, and we don't have to do it quite yet. George is ready. He's got his finger on the trigger there. But we're going to talk first about Somerville by Design, because basically, or excuse me, Summer Vision.
Summer Vision.
We're going to talk Summer Vision.
Yes.
Because that's the kind of overall umbrella to a lot of what has been happening in Davis Square, correct?
Yes, we like giving names to all of these projects,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes there's some overlap in terms of what we're doing. And Summer Vision, to take a step back, Summer Vision is the program we spent from 2009 to 2012 working on building a 20-year future comprehensive plan for the city of Somerville that was adopted by the Planning Board and the Board of Aldermen in 2012.
Okay, now this is where the images will kick in here, so
And,
if you just want to do that.
Sure.
That didn't quite work out.
No.
Oh, it did.
took a
Oh, there was a
second.
delay.
There was a
Oops,
delay, but
I was a
it's
victim
up
of the
there.
delay. Sorry
You
about
warned
that.
me of the delay. It was right
Sorry.
there.
Okay, George
As
is on
planned.
top of it all.
On top of the
I don't
delay.
even need a job. I'm just going to leave. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so.
I need you to ask the questions and guide us here. You're doing
Fair
a great
enough.
job. So to give you a little bit of background, Summer Vision was a citywide plan.
Yep.
And it's great to do a citywide plan, but you can't dive into some of the details to the level that you want to when you do a citywide plan.
Okay.
We spent 3 years. We did a number of community outreach meetings. This particular word cloud showing the city of Somerville shows the words that were brought up the most by the community through the conversations in the city
Interesting,
about
okay.
diversity and community and green and
Keep schools, affordability.
affordability.
Great
and
one.
Some really interesting discussions that occurred
Okay.
there. But over 3 years, we gelled behind a plan that really talked about what it comes down to, a very simple concept.
Yep.
And I think that it's a plan for growth that's also a plan for protection of neighborhoods. And that's what's most interesting
Okay.
and also most challenging about it.
And so now some of these, I know you can't read at home unless you have really good glasses, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, those are just going into some of the numbers some statistics. Now, this is all available online, right? I'm going to
Yes.
put some things on the Greater Somerville blog so that you guys can find this. But I mean, these plans really do show, it's a culmination of all the effort, and there's a lot of facts in here, and we don't expect you to really read it all tonight.
Yes,
But okay.
yes. But essentially, it talked about 30,000 jobs and 6,000 housing units, which is a lot of growth for Somerville. 1,200 of them permanently affordable.
To
But
2030.
by 2030.
By 2030, yep. Okay.
But the key is that it ties to this map, which talks about areas to transform, areas to enhance, and areas to conserve. That 85% of the new growth in the city should be in areas like Inner Belt or Assembly Square, where there's significant opportunity for a lot to transform.
Because often there's the tea coming there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, while we're also trying to conserve and protect our existing neighborhoods, which are the areas in green in the map,
Yep.
we did think that the areas in blue, the corridors like Highland Ave and Beacon Street and the current and future transit station neighborhoods needed a little more attention.
Okay.
And one of the key items that came out of this whole project was that it was important to talk about how each of those neighborhoods was going to transform in the future. So we set up an idea that we were going to do two things, both topic-specific meetings with the public and topic-specific issues like complete streets programs and affordable housing and how we were going to address those, and also neighborhood-based physical design plans, which we've done now for Gilman Square,
Yep.
Magoon Square, and we're in the process of doing East Somerville and Davis, and then in the future we're going to look at doing the area around Winter Hill and Broadway as
So
well.
this is the overall driving kind of bus, and then there's a lot of little kind of pockets of meetings. Everybody at home's like, what's meeting? You know, if you want to get involved, there's plenty of meetings to go to. But it's wonderful because this is kind of where some of the more, like you're saying, nitty-gritty details come into the smaller group of meetings,
Right.
which is where Davis
Right.
Square comes into play, correct?
Right.
So you are very involved with the Davis Square plan, the Davis Square streetscape plan. So were you done with your explanation? Sorry, I just cut George
sure.
off.
No,
I'm sorry.
no,
I shouldn't be
no.
cutting George off, but I just have all these questions.
Should we talk about Somerville by Design first? That's kind of a...
I think I can give a little bit of I'll give a little bit of background what Somerville by Design is, and
Yeah.
there's two pieces that Sarah has been very involved in. One is the streetscape in Davis Square, and the other is our complete street strategy for the city as a whole.
Okay.
But Somerville by Design was based upon the idea of taking all of these ideas, working with physical design as a sort of rallying point for discussing all of these issues. We do projects where when we go into neighborhoods, we bring the consulting team to the neighborhood, and a lot of times, like Davis, we moved into a storefront for a couple of days,
Yep.
and we really get involved in what's going on in that particular neighborhood and learn how it works and work off of that.
And what we could do is we could advance a little bit. Don't show, yeah, if
Sure.
we want to advance a little bit. so we can have the slides. So wait, okay, so basically from the comprehensive plan, now you're going into Davis. You're zooming in on all the things that want to happen in Davis Square, and these are some images from
the September charrette event where we spent 3 days in Davis Square in a storefront at the corner where Cutter and Elm come together. Had a lot of community discussion about a number of the issues surrounding Davis Square. At the same time, we set up a outdoor plaza area, sort of a pop-up plaza.
And Sarah, what did that, I mean, as far as that pop-up, this was a really great image because this is, you basically, what did you do? You set up so people could just come and
explore what the square is and what it could be.
Okay,
so
and sketch on drawings.
It's very hands-on, really exploring all of the issues and opportunities. So you're in the place, you are looking at the place and giving your ideas directly to a team of people from the city, people like George and myself, as well as consultants who are there to
And
help
what type of
with those
consultants
ideas.
are there? Like, what do we have?
We had a few professionals there doing some sketches
Architects?
for us. Architects, planners,
Landscape architects?
Landscape architects, yes.
And Davis in particular had the advantage that we had a team that had been starting work on the streetscape project that had had some meetings beforehand, and we brought them in. They participated as well. So there's a landscape architecture and design group doing streetscape work, and they, along with the team of architects and designers that had done work elsewhere in Somerville, that's Russ Preston, who worked on the plan for Gilman Square and Magoon Square, and some of the others. We had Mike Lydon, who's a national expert in doing bicycle planning, and we brought sort of all that team together, moved them, sort of a group of individual consultants. It's actually a way to do these projects lower cost than most and with a lot more community involvement than most, and come up with a pretty concise plan that describes where we want to go.
Okay, so then let me just understand. So that was the Somerville by Design, and then Davis Square Streetscapes came out. So that's the final. That's the the latest. I mean, that was in October and November, correct?
Right, and that's ongoing. So for Davis Square Somerville by Design and the Davis Square Streetscape improvements, in this case, we're progressing in parallel and gaining from each other. So
can we take a look? I'm sorry to interrupt. Can we take a look? Actually, George is flipping around there with this. If we look at the Davis Square plan, and then maybe we can. I just think that'd be a. Nope.
Yeah, let's
there
look
we
at the full plan.
Yeah.
So this is the entire streetscape plan.
Yep. So this is the illustrative plan that we developed back starting in 2012. We had a series of public meetings that identified areas for improvement around Davis Square.
And just to orient people, see the little squiggly blue line that's kind of at a diagonal. That's the community path. And so obviously Davis Square has that like almost famous kind of all the roads kind of come together and make this
that multi-point intersection.
That multi-point intersection that's like a logo. But anyway, so you can kind of see where we're at with that. And is it Memorial Park right at the corner there? You're going to make a little landscaping element. Right in front of Mike's, correct?
Exactly. So let me tell you a little bit about the plan that we're looking at here. This is one of the earlier iterations of the illustrative plan that we've been working on since then. And it shows how we heard a lot of concerns in the square about several main topics. One was the pedestrian realm. George, if you scroll to the graph back a few slides, we did a survey. We got a great response. We got over 500 responses on this survey, looking at various questions about the square, including how you get there and how you get around there.
And that's what this is. You
and that's
can
what
barely
this
read
is.
it. How
Again,
do you
it's
get
quite
to Davis
small.
Square? And on the left, what is that?
That is pedestrians.
Wow. Okay.
So we heard a lot from those who are seeing the square from street level. They're intimately aware of all of the issues and opportunities around such a pedestrian environment.
Out of curiosity, what are the other two? Just reading them off.
So blue we have biking, cyclists.
Yep.
Purple is driving, and then the other two, there's bus, and on the red line is the one all the way up to the right.
Okay.
So there's a
So we want it to be a walkable square.
very
clearly.
much so, because if you consider that the transit elements are also pedestrians for a part of their trip there.
Okay.
So going back to the plan, we wanted to take a look at how to bolster that pedestrian realm and really enhance that busy, active environment that is Davis Square. I should note that this project actually started out way back when as a basic aesthetic upgrade to the square. You know, we know that the square hasn't had one of those since the plan in 1984.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sees a lot of wear, and the plan started out with taking a look at how to update that. And as we moved forward with our public process, we heard a lot about some other opportunities that we thought really resounded with the vision for the square. And so we increased the scope of the projects to include additional pedestrian improvements, looking at crossings, looking at plaza space, and looking at sidewalks and sidewalk materials, as well as, I should point out, the importance of the community path. As you mentioned, first and foremost, we got a lot of responses about connecting the community path and how important that access was.
Yeah, because you kind of come to Davis and it kind of goes away. There's an image in there of the actual plaza, which I thought was, that you were looking at and creating.
So that's, these are some of the sidewalk materials we were looking at. We heard a lot about conserving the bricks. We heard a lot about people hating the bricks.
Yeah. Accessibility, it's always a challenge, is definitely for a walkable city.
Yep.
This is a nice solution in that where you walk, it gives you a concrete paving area to walk on, but you still have the brick.
You flip back to the other one.
Brick element. There's the Plaza Design.
So this is an image that you created that basically is that the memorial on the right?
Yep. So right now, in this perspective, we are looking towards the Middlesex Bank building.
In the background,
to the right is Mike's, so right off the screen there.
Okay.
And in terms of being able to increase that pedestrian realm and provide additional plaza space, we were looking at the slip lane that's currently there and how that was performing. And this was one of the safety concerns we heard about the square at this intersection and at another intersection down at Cutter. We heard pedestrian safety concerns where folks were not comfortable crossing the street there, and were concerned about car traffic and the way that the cars were behaving in that area.
And the current streetscape plan, you have taken into consideration those safety issues, but also, you know, aesthetically trying to create this big plaza, if you will, to kind of accentuate Davis Square, right?
Yeah, so we heard a lot about Davis being an important gathering spot and an important civic space for the city. If you think about how much space is actually there, we have the small park right over by JP Licks.
Yeah. Is that going to stay?
Positive. Absolutely.
I was going to say, what about those old people?
Absolutely.
That statue. I love that statue.
We put them in one of our advertising posters for our events.
Oh, okay. You
they're
can't
a very important part
Okay,
of
no,
Somerville.
perfect.
Yeah, we're not changing anything over there.
There is a definite quirky aspect of Davis Square. But one thing I am curious about, and you touched on a little bit, I talked with Alderman Gwirtz a little bit about, you know, Davis Square, and, you know, I told her we were doing the show, and one of the things is that, you know, there obviously is infrastructure, you know, needs and just a facelift in Davis Square. I mean, if you look at it, and I think that with, you know, prices rising, property taxes going up, all these things going on, it would be a shame to not have this square and what a wonderful gem it is kind of be brought up to that same level. So my question is we've gone through all these kind of processes and we've got a lot of information here, but when would this actually happen? You know, because those infrastructure upgrades, I mean, those take a lot of time. So is that?
They do, but this is a project we're hoping to implement on a fairly close timeline.
Okay.
We are working on 100% design right now, so progressing from some of the images that we were just looking at. And we are hoping to finish up that design moving into the summer and finalizing that and hopefully bidding it in the fall.
bidding it in the fall.
That's right.
Really? So this would be then implemented in Davis Square?
Yes, following a successful bidding process.
Following it, well, no, that's exciting because I guess I didn't really think it was that kind of close behind. Because, I mean, let's be honest, folks, there's been a lot of attention on Union Square, and George, you guys have been running around, I'm sure. But, you know, it's good to know that Davis Square, it's one of those squares, like I said, it feels like we take it for granted. I don't want to say that, but I kind of do because it's like, oh, Davis.
Well,
you know.
again, there was a a lot of great work done in 1984.
I know.
And it has lasted, but it's time for
But
a
the
refresher.
80s, you know,
It's
get
time
rid,
for a
get rid of the
refresh.
neon.
It's such an important place, and it's Somerville's identity is so tied to it regionally that it's really important to keep the focus on it and keep the interest and the energy on it, and that's why we've been focused on all of these pieces. As we've mentioned before, Davis actually had a neighborhood plan done in the 80s as the Red Line was coming, and there were 16 physical design recommendations in that plan, and 14 of them were actually implemented.
Really?
So it's one of these plans that didn't sit on a shelf, that actually stuff happened to, but once you finish it and 30 years have gone by, it's time to take a fresh look at that and see where we're going next. And that's
so here's a
what we've been
question,
working
is
through.
that I understand that this whole process happened and how it happened evolution-wise, but as far as, now you know I'm going to ask about the hotel, just because I want to know about the hotel in Davis Square.
Sure, absolutely.
And there's a teddy bear in our back.
Okay.
We
So
have
I
visitors
think my
behind us.
co-host decided to bring his teddy bear. They were over watching the Somerville Neighborhood News launch at the Cantina, Mexican Cantina. Okay, there we are. Okay, hi Joe. There they are. So anyway, we're losing valuable time here. So anyway, so one of the things that we were talking about is the hotel
Yes,
in
the
Davis Square,
hotel.
because we know that's a little controversial, but I think that the viewers at home want to kind of ask that, so I'm going to ask that question. Where do we stand with it? Because what I understood, and based on our conversations, was that process started. There were a lot of community people a little bit concerned with where the community process was or if it was happening or not, and what type of input they would have. And so some of this Davis Square development actually, I don't want to say came out of that, but you know, we backtracked a little bit, and you kind of said, okay, let's take a bigger picture. Did I explain it right, or maybe?
I mean, I think to put it in perspective, a lot of we did the Somerville by Design process at the Green Line stations in the middle of the city first, at Gilman Square, at Lagoon Square, at Ball, although we keep changing that because the station design changed and we have to change the plan to adjust to the station design, so we'll be going back to Ball. But as we did that, we always had an intention that we were going to roll out neighborhood plans out of SummerVision case by case. I don't think it was our intention necessarily to do Davis Square next until the issues with the hotel came up, and what I think it made us all realize is that it had been so long since we had a greater conversation about where the future of Davis Square was going that it was difficult to come in and talk about development projects individually, when in reality what you needed to do is step back and talk about where we're going and whether or not or how this development project fits with the overall context of where we're going. And I think we learned a lot about that process by doing that. So we had put out, the city had put out a request for proposals for a hotel developer. There were 6 responses. There was a community group.
Just to explain, sorry, just about where the hotel, just for people who don't know. So there is a hotel. How big is it, and where is it located?
The idea was that the city was looking for somebody who wanted to operate a 120-room hotel, building it on a city-owned parking lot. That's the thing at the corner of Day and Herbert Streets.
It's right behind, isn't that right behind CBS?
Basically behind, but shifted over a bit, sort of.
Oh, where the
farmers market is,
where
where the
in that
farmers
parking
market
lot.
is.
Okay.
The idea was we were going to find a new place for the farmers market. They were going to replace some of the parking underground as part of the project with the hotel. And they were looking for some good ideas. And there's been a lot of interest in lodging in Davis Square. There's a lot of opportunity there. It helps bring other business in. It helps bring tech businesses and others that may settle in daytime to the square to have access to a hotel nearby. There's hotel demand on the Red Line. It could support the local restaurants. There were a lot of benefits to it. But we realized through this process that there was a lot of need to sort of step back with the community and say, well, how or where or under what circumstances does this fit?
And so whereabouts is that? Only because we've got a couple of minutes. So I just wanted to touch on that, say that there was a lot of people that were a little kind of frustrated. So now where we are in terms of the hotel is, now that we have this kind of grassroots generated, you know, this physical design that you all kind of participated in, or we all participated in, then the hotel, they're still going to come back, probably developers. I mean, that's probably going to happen.
Right. Well,
going to be
Right.
more integrated with the current plan.
Well, so
Right?
we're looking to have the plan address all of the questions about where development goes in the future of Davis. Davis Square has like a zoning district that puts a 50-foot height limit sort of straight across the square.
Okay.
Whether you're right next to someone's house or whether you're right in the
You'll
middle
be
of the
50,
square.
50 feet will be the max.
And,
Okay,
and,
it's good to know.
and I think we've looked at that, and one of the questions we've asked, and one of the things we're probably going to discuss in the draft plan and try to get more feedback on as we go forward is does that one-size-fits-all solution necessarily make sense?
Yeah.
And then based upon that, how does that fit with certain sites? I think as far as the hotel question specifically, there was a lot of discussion. As we got further into it, there was a lot of discussion about concern about the type of hotel operation it is.
Yeah.
There was more interest in like boutique hotels and in kind of unique spaces,
Okay.
about the height of the building, about making sure it's not more than 4 stories. And about whether that site made sense or maybe something on the other side of the square made sense. We looked at
But is there a developer there? I mean, like, that's what I guess I'm trying,
Yeah.
someone owns that plot of land? Does someone?
the parking lot we own.
Oh, okay,
The
so it
city
has, I
owns.
guess, for the
Right.
viewers at home, in the remaining time, there was a proposal for a hotel, but it's not like someone actually, an architect designed it, presented it, it's just kind of a visioning, right?
It was,
Just
well,
wanna
what we did
understand.
was that our economic development team went out and tried to see if somebody would come buy the lot off of us and
And-
build a hotel there.
And they,
And there's interest.
Yeah,
There was
okay.
lots of
Okay.
interest. So what we've stepped back with the community and said is before we go back out and ask that sort of a question again, whether it be on that lot or somewhere
Other
else in
lot that might
Davis
be more
Square,
appropriate.
because there may be
Okay.
other places that are better. But before we go back out and ask that question again, let's set the parameters based upon the community design process as to what we want and what we don't want.
Yep.
And I think what's come back is what we want is we want a smaller hotel. We want
More
something that's more
boutique-y.
boutique-y, more
Okay.
unique. We don't want on-site restaurants because we want to support the rest of the square. There's certain things about it that we want, and we need to fit that into the rest of the plan.
okay, so our general sense in the remaining minute that we have is that Davis Square has come a long way, thanks to you two, in terms of being able to kind of vision what the community wants, what they don't want. And as far as next steps, maybe Sarah, what you were saying, we're looking
Sure.
at moving ahead, and people can have input still, or?
Absolutely.
Okay,
So
and where would they?
as we work to get to a more detailed plan, we will have another public meeting in the spring to display that to the public.
And
get
say, like,
feedback.
this is what it's going to be.
Exactly.
And if
so
you have another kind of, you have a chance to kind of get out there and just say, but it's
Absolutely.
finalizing, and it's
Yep.
moving ahead.
it is moving ahead.
And our hope is to issue a draft of the Somerville by Design plan that addresses some of the questions as we heard it from the community about the hotel, about other development in the neighborhood, about long-term issues of how streets and parking and other issues may all work together. We want to issue that draft and go back out to the community and ask people if we got it right, and
Yep,
then go
and
from
when's that
there.
going to be issued?
We need a couple more months, but it should be soon.
Okay.
It should be soon.
Well, I'd like to thank our guests, George Proakis and Sarah Spicer, for taking time out of their busy schedules to stop by Greater Somerville tonight to fill us in on the latest happenings in Davis Square and citywide as Somerville prepares for the extensive development that lies ahead. What an incredible effort the city has displayed to involve its residents and business owners to generate the collective visions of our city. As an active participant in the community process with the City of Cambridge, I, for one, know how challenging yet incredibly rewarding this community process can be. And I'd like to appropriately recognize that these two individuals, what they do on a daily basis to really make Somerville a better place to be. So thank you very much for all of your efforts every single day, year after year. You can check out our Greater Somerville website for all the contact information from tonight's program. And that does it for us tonight. Thank you to the viewers at home for watching. Until next time, stay safe and stay informed. Good night, everyone.